Well, good morning, everybody. Morning. If you'd like to make your way to a table and finish the conversations about how well the English rugby team did yesterday with 14 men after 2 minutes, or whatever, that'd be fantastic. And we're going to start now. And I'll warn you now, I'm introducing some quite drastic crowd control measures because I've got this with me at the front, okay? So I'm expecting a greater level of respect and maybe not less heckling, but more polite heckling as we go. Okay, so I'm putting you on notice. Now, to contrast with that very horrible, deadly knife image, I'm going to put up a lovely picture. Because that's our theme for this morning. We're continuing guest services looking at the idea of salvation and what the Bible tells us about salvation. And in 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 2 and 3, it says, like newborn babies crave spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation, now that you have tasted that the Lord is good. And don't you just look into the eyes of that baby and think, oh, hey? No. There speaks a man who's got up many times in the night. That's the beginning of a road he doesn't want to go down anymore. Okay, but before we get into the service proper, can I just bring to your attention a few notices? First of all, after a great deal of correction and amendment, there is a what's on outside. I don't think there's ever been a what's on with as much care and detail gone into it, but they are outside, so please do grab one. If you want one by email, then just let us know, and we'll send that round generally to you. But if you like the hard copy, it's there at the back. Just let you know that MCYC Live is on next Saturday at Hoylake Chapel. I think it's 7:30, isn't it? Opportunity to go and meet up with people, the children or leaders who've been, and meet up with people you've been with at camp this year, and to celebrate what a great set of weeks it's been, despite the hurricane that blew down the tents in 1 week. What a fantastic time it's been. So if anybody wants to go, or they want children to go and they've got a problem with lifts, then please come and see me for the sake of anyone better, and we'll sort out lifts for you. But anybody who wants to go, we'll make sure you can go. We've got a couple of birthdays coming up in the week, but there's a rule we have at Bethany. You can only have birthdays if your letters begin with the same letters. But yeah, so we've got Jeff, with a G, and Grace, whose birthday's this week. So happy birthday to you both in advance, and have a lovely time. And we've also got Gat at the back, who's got a birthday. Sometimes people call her Pat because it sounds better. But really, if you check a birth certificate, as we do for all these things, it's Gat. So happy birthday to you all. Have a fantastic time being spoiled rotten by your family. Probably Jeff and Grace in similar measure, I'd imagine. So that'll be good. I'm not sure there's any other notices, but can I just remind you that there's lots of people within the church community, the church family, who do need our prayers at the moment. There's people like Ray, there's people like Irene, there's other people as well. You will know lots of them, so do keep remembering them in your prayers. And if you can, try and find 5 minutes to spare a phone call just to ring them. To somebody who's stuck at home all day, every day, you won't believe the pleasure, the enjoyment, the sense of value they get from somebody just ringing them for a few minutes to ask them how they are and to express their love for them. So do that. The cost to us is so small and the benefit to them is so great. So please do keep doing that. Tonight we've got our Zoom communion at 6:30, so please feel free to join that. It's a great time and it's an important time for us. So I'd encourage you to do that. And the What's On will give you details of next week. But next week we've got Roy DeLuze coming. So it'll be at the same time, but it'll be our normal, sort of more regular format. So let's have a look at our verses again. We saw them before, and it says this, and I've told you before, whenever you read a verse, always be careful, never read the verse on its own. There's a danger in reading verses in isolation. It's a bit like saying, always carry a knife and walk around waving it, and ignoring the fact that just before it says one thing that you must not do is, it can really affect the meaning of what comes before. So here's the verse before. It says, therefore, rid yourselves of all malice and all deceit, Hypocrisy, envy, and slander of every kind, like newborn babies, craves pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation, now that you have tasted that the Lord is good. But there's a problem there, isn't there, with our reading into the context? Can anyone spot what the problem is? I'll give you a clue. It says therefore, doesn't it? And whenever we see the word therefore, what it means is there's something that's gone before that's then building up to what we're reading now. So that means we're going to have to read 1 Peter 1, because we need to understand the earlier section to work out what this particular part of the Bible is actually telling us. So I'm going to read all of 1 Peter chapter 1. If you want to follow along in your own Bibles, that's fine. You do that. Okay. It says this. Peter, that's the writer, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to God's elect exiles scattered throughout the provinces of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bethany. I don't know how you pronounce those, by the way. That's just my best guess. And wrong, I can tell already. Who have been chosen according to the foreknowledge of God the Father, through the sanctifying work of the Spirit, to be obedient to Jesus Christ and sprinkled with his blood. Grace and peace be yours in abundance. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. In all this you greatly rejoice, though now, for a little while, you may have to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Though you have not seen him, you love him, and even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the end results of your faith, the salvation of your souls. Concerning this salvation, the prophets who spoke of the grace that was to come to you searched intently and with greatest care, trying to find out the time and circumstances to which the Spirit of Christ in them was pointing when he predicted the sufferings of the Messiah and the glories that would follow. It was revealed to them that they were not serving themselves but you when they spoke of the things that have now been told you by those who have preached the gospel to you by the Holy Spirit sent from heaven. Even angels long to look into these things. Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. As obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance, but just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, be holy because I am holy. Since you call on a Father who judges each person's work impartially, live out your time as foreigners here in reverent fear. For you know that it was not with perishable things such as silver or gold that you were redeemed from the empty way of life handed down to you from your ancestors, but with the precious blood of Christ, a lamb without blemish or defect. He was chosen before the creation of the world, but was revealed in these last times for your sake. Through him, you believe in God who raised him from the dead and glorified him. And so your faith and hope are in God. Now that you have purified yourselves by obeying the truth so that you have sincere love for one another, love one another deeply from the heart. For you have been born again, not of perishable seed, but of imperishable, through the living and enduring word of God. For all people are like grass, and all their glory is like the flowers of the field. The grass withers, and the flowers fail, but the word of the Lord endures forever. And this is the word that was preached to you. And that's where we get to the verses that we've just been reading. So let me give you a little summary of what I think that passage was saying, to give us like a bit of a cheat guide to what it was saying without having to keep going back to the same passage over again. First of all, it was written to believers, so this is something written to those who believe in Christ and have decided to follow him. It reminds believers that they have been chosen. We talked about that last week. And that they are being sanctified, that's being made sort of better in God's eyes, because they've made Jesus their Lord. And that's why it talks about obedience. And that's why often when Christians talk about becoming a Christian, they talk about accepting Jesus as Lord and Saviour. They accept the fact that he saved them, and that's what the Saviour bit in terms of being sprinkled with blood is a reference to, because when somebody was sprinkled with blood from one of the sacrifices, it was cleansed them and made them able to be in relationship with God. That's what the sacrifice system was about, being sprinkled with blood. Whilst strange to us, really strange to us, in those days it was a very clear message of being made pure and holy again so that you could be in relationship with God. So we talk about accepting Jesus as Saviour because that's an important part. And we talk about making him our Lord because it's not just accepting him as Saviour, accepting that he is now in charge of your life. He is your Lord, and that's why Peter's talking about obedience as well as being sprinkled with blood. So Peter's reminding people they've been chosen for that purpose. He instructs them at several points, and this is important for our passage, that their new life with God is infinitely better than their old life, even if they are going through trials and difficulties and problems in that short term. He explains that the mysteries of the gospel, understanding what the revelation of God's love and his purpose is something that not only have the prophets been working hard and God's Holy Spirit has inspired them to do that, not only that, but even the angels themselves long to understand and to delve into these things. Again, that's important for our passage. He instructs believers that they should be obedient to God. We mentioned that before. They should focus on what their role for God is. And they should particularly avoid or reject those desires and priorities that come from the world, what the world tells you about what you should be looking for and prioritizing. They should be ignored and rejected so that you focus solely on what God wants. And he reminds believers that they've been brought or bought into this new life and are given that sure and certain hope, not through gold and silver and other things that are measurable, but through actually the blood of Christ. He explains that obedience to God produces love. So obedience to God on the inside produces love going out to fellow believers, but also to the world at large. And it instructs believers that they've come to know Christ through the Word of God. That's how we get to know Jesus. So particularly in our day and age, when we have the Bible written down in one place, that's how we can find who Christ is and what he is and how we should respond to him. And he reminds us that the Word of God will endure forever. That Word will outlast any of all of humanity's issues, any of our current principles or priorities for life or the way of living. They come and go. I mean, those of us who've been around for a long time will see that many things that were frowned upon years ago are now accepted and celebrated, and also things that were celebrated and considered to be good and healthy and proper are now considered strange and weird. Because society is constantly changing its views, constantly, regardless of the rights and wrongs. It's constantly changing from year to year, decade to decade. And Peter is making the point, God's word stands and it endures. It won't be blown by the winds of change and the winds of current ideas. And that's where he then turns to 1 Peter 2. But before we do that, the music group is going to come up and lead us in our first hymn, which is the Hymn of Heaven. And you will see some of the ideas that are expressed in 1 Peter chapter 1 picked up. So as you're singing this, worship the Lord our God, of course, but also just look for those references, to those touch points to some of the ideas that Peter has been expressing in 1 Peter 1 already.
Let it be.
Thank you, guys. And so, having done that summary of what the 1 Peter 1 said, we can then understand the word therefore. Therefore, based on all those things we looked at a moment ago. Therefore, with it being a better life that God gives us than the other life, with us being having to be obedient to God, with this new life that is wrapped up in the gospel that even the angels long to explore and understand, with all that, therefore, rid yourselves of all malice and all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and slander of every kind. Rather, it goes on to say, like newborn babies, crave pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation, now that you have tasted that the Lord is good. So we're going to have our first table time now. So for those of you who haven't been before, what this means is you just chat about a subject we give you around the table with the people there, and bad luck if you pick somebody really boring. But your good news is I'm up here, so none of you have got me. So you've got not come bottom in the choice stakes there, whatever. But amongst your tables, and we're just for 3 or 4 minutes, so it's not massively deep. Just have a good discussion about this very deep theological topic. What does pure milk mean to a baby? Okay? That's what I want you to do. Now, there's one really obvious answer, which I won't say because it'll let somebody say it. But just think about more deeply than that. I mean, if anybody's ever been a baby or had a baby, you'll have a little bit of an insight, or you've seen a baby feeding, you might have a little bit of an insight into what it means to a baby to be fed milk, okay? So go beyond the really obvious answer, okay? So you've got 3 or 4 minutes, go. Sorry. I will do, there's a time when it's, yeah. Not yet. For taste testing. You've had enough time there to discuss babies and their feeding and what pure milk means to a baby. So let's just shout out answers, and as is traditional for me, if you get it right, or not get it right, you can't get it right, can you? But if you give us a sensible answer, or alternatively a non-sensible answer that's very amusing, you'll get a sweet. And today we've got a choice between heroes and roses, or the sweets are available. So who's going to give us first? There's an obvious. Go on, Jane. For growth, well done. What would you like, heroes or roses? Not bad. Who else? So it means growth. At the back there. Food, well done. Heroes or roses? Okay, this is a difficult one. Watch out at the back, particularly the IT team and those under the lamps. Oh, sorry. Alan's got it. That's his cricket training. Oh, yeah, here's one. What does it... Could you whisper it to somebody else to tell us? Go whisper. I know, it's not nice, but I'll put on the spot, is it? What did you say? For their bones? That's absolutely right. Would she like a heroes or a... Yeah, you answered that one, didn't you? I'd do that. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll let you choose what you want from there and then pass them back. So who else has got an answer? Yes, Mandy? Louder. Yeah. 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 You can come and do this for me, this service, the rest of me now. You can have 2 sweets for that. Would you like heroes or would you like roses? Whatever, okay. So you're getting a dinky decker. Oh, there you are. And be careful, this is a dairy milk, it's a caramel, it's a bit heavier, does more damage. There you are, don't worry, that eye will get better in time. Who else? A bookie? Health, it's for health reasons, yes. Roses or heroes? Heroes are popular. Take note, whoever makes roses. Nobody's interested. Well done, Bucky. Yes, Gat at the back. Attachment to what? To a loved one. I thought you meant for a minute the latching process had all gone horribly wrong. Okay, I'm with you now. So what Gat was saying at the back was that it's like it's contact, it builds attachment to the mother or whoever's feeding them. Roses or heroes? Roses fight back. Okay, Alan, get ready. Or Damien. Oh, well done. Anybody else? Anyone else got an answer? Yes, Rob. You're not having an... I was going to say you're not having an answer for that, and then I remembered my criteria number 2. Criteria number 2 has said, Get your minds out the gutters. Oh, sorry. Anyone else? Last one before we move on? Yes, Dave. Protection. What do you mean by protection, Dave? You're right. Yeah, that's right. Mother's milk gives various protections, immunisations. Do you want roses or heroes, Dave? You're a hero, aren't you? I know that. I saw you. The moment I looked at you and I saw them sunglasses, I thought, he's a hero. Okay. So I couldn't know what you'd say ahead of time, but these are what I came up with anyway. They're the source of the nutrients that are needed for growth, like I think Jane said very early on. It actually means sustaining life, doesn't it? It's sustenance. That's what they need. It doesn't matter how many times you make a funny face or wave a rattle to a baby. It doesn't keep them alive, does it? But the milk does. And it's trustworthy goodness, isn't it, in there? You know, you don't get a baby who's sort of approaching the bottle or the breast, whatever, and says, oh, I'm not sure, though. Apart from Gat's got a story, if you want to ask her about it at the back. But for most babies that aren't in her family, there's a trust there. They know they can just take that milk and it is good for them. It provides satisfaction, doesn't it? And I think this is come back to Damien's fear. So often you hear a baby screaming, and when they're hungry and they get that milk, they're satisfied, aren't they? It soothes and provides that sort of gives them calm as well. Have you ever seen that baby when they're screaming, they're red-faced, and you think that can't possibly be a human being making that face and that noise? And then they have their milk and they calm down and they're soothed. And again, it doesn't matter how much you wave the rattle, make a funny face. Lots of the time, they just need feeding, don't they? And as Dave said, it provides protection. There's lots of immunizing effects. It's maybe this isn't so obvious to a baby when they're a baby, but later it's such a special bond that comes from feeding a baby, isn't there? Their mothers talk about that all the time, that sense of closeness. And it's a practical demonstration of a parent's love and care for the baby. And as someone at the back, who I won't name, said, it's that contact, it's that attachment. That's what it provides to them. When you first have a baby, one of the things they say to you is, have skin-on-skin contact now. You've got to sort of get that connection. So let's apply what you've just told me to that verse then. So, like newborn babies, crave spiritual milk. So crave that source of what we need. Crave that life-sustaining content. Crave trustworthy goodness. Crave the thing that will truly satisfy. Crave the thing that will soothe you in whatever circumstances you're in. Crave the thing that will provide you with calmness in your circumstances and whatever you're facing. Crave the thing that will provide protection for the dangers of life. Crave that reassuring contact. Appreciate that demonstration of your Heavenly Father's love and care for you. Crave all those things so that by it you may grow up in your salvation now that you've tasted that the Lord is good. That's what Peter is saying we should be longing for, we should be craving for. Again, at the risk of making this a maternity service, one of the things that sometimes comes up in pregnancy is a craving. And I don't know whether you've ever been tapped on the shoulder to ask for a pineapple pizza at 3 o'clock in the morning. But when somebody has a genuine craving, it consumes them, doesn't it? It's the thing that drives their behavior. It's the thing they're focused on to the exclusion of all else, to the exclusion of sleep or a happy marriage. All of those things go out the window. They just want that thing. And that's the high burden. That's a high level. That's what Peter's saying. That's what you should be craving. That should be your consuming desire through the day. To crave those things for those reasons. But let's be honest, and I'll be honest with myself. Is that my day-to-day reality? Do I go through the day craving pure spiritual milk? Do I crave God's input and involvement in my life? Because going back to what I said before about becoming a Christian means making Jesus both Lord and Saviour. If he's Lord, that means what he wants, his plans come first and mine come last. Do I want to hand over control? Do I want to hand over aims? Do I want to do that? Not often, if I'm honest. Do I crave his word, his revelation in the Bible? Is that going through the day? Is that driving my behaviour through the day when I'm deciding, do I watch Casualty again? Do I watch Bake Off? Or do I spend some time? Do I get up even though it's cold, windy and wet and get out to the Bible study meeting? Do I crave his guidance? Do I spend time in prayer? Do I go through the motions? Do I read my list? Do I listen? Do I spend time just listening to him? Do I seek his instruction? When I've got a life challenge, do I spend time looking through the Bible, through the sections that deal with that? Do I speak to other Christians who are respected and mature to talk about things with them? Do I crave his correction? I think one of the features of being a youngster is you'd rather get your way than be right. Can I have that 15th Mars bar? They're really only wanting one answer there, aren't they? They're wanting the answer that gives them what they want rather than what is right for them. Sometimes not always, just a youngster also. So do we actually want his correction? And sometimes that could be painful. It's hard to admit when you're doing something wrong, particularly when you can find ways to justify it. Do we crave his will for our lives? Because sometimes his will is like his will expressed to Jesus in Gethsemane, isn't it? Where Jesus was terrified of what was going to happen. He hated the very idea of it. He's sweating drops of blood, the Bible tells us, in anxiety over it. But his response and our response should be, but your will, not mine. But do we crave that? Because often that's costly and painful. That's what Peter is actually saying here. We're going to sing again. The music group, you come up for the second and final time. And we're going to sing Christ is my reward. It's encouraging us to think about all that we gain through Christ and the focus that should be for motivating our decisions and our actions in life. So we're going to stand and sing again, Christ is my reward.
Everything I need is in you. Everything I need. I Everything I need is in you. Everything I need.
Thank you, guys. We're going to have our second table time now. Shorter time. It's a simpler question. I want you to discuss this for just 2 minutes. What is the difference, if any, if you may think there's no difference, what is the difference, if any, between knowledge and experience? So you've got 2 minutes on that. Off you go. Chatting, knowledge and experience. I am thinking we're going to be about 10 minutes at least, so I think we'll be about 10 past 12 looking at it. But there will be this song playing, sort of like a 2-minute warning. Okay. Is it okay? Yeah. Okay, last 30 seconds. Okay, let's bring it back in the room. I'll just let the IT team know. I'm going to need that on in a minute or two. Okay, I'm going to need that on in a minute or two. I'll let you know when. And I'll let you know what I just told the team out the back. I think we're going to finish about 12 minutes past because we've got something to do that'll take us a few minutes. So I think 10 past 12 just said to them, and I have made the children who are all gathered out the back there have the discussion as well. So I want somebody from the back in the foyer, from the children's group, to give us something that they think is the difference between knowledge and experience. So somebody's going to have to walk forward and shout loudly, and if I don't get a volunteer, I'm going to nominate Will. So Will, come to the doors and shout out something that the group at the back has thought. What's the difference between knowledge and experience here? Go on. That question there, yeah. Okay, it's more valuable. Do you want a hero or a roses? I never doubted you for a second there, Will. If I get this to you, I want a round of applause, okay? Oh! I may not be much of a speaker, but I can throw chocolates well. Okay, well, thank you, youngsters out the back. So in the room now. Yes, at the back, Gat? Okay, actually doing something rather than just knowing it in your head. Is that what you mean? Yeah? Okay, Alan. Yeah. No. No. Okay, very good. I'll come back to you in a minute. I could hear the dispute and the formal objection being written that I hadn't sent a chocolate to Gat. Oh. What would you like, Alan? Any. You can have roses, because otherwise the feelings have been hurt, I think, a bit. Oh, good catch. Over here. Yes, Jill. Yes. Yes. For those... For those of you at home who couldn't see what happened there, I basically just gave Jill all the chocolates because there's nothing a fella can say in response to that at all. Okay, anyone else got anything else to add about... Yes, Maureen. Yeah. 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 So you're sort of developing the idea that Will had, which is that the experience is more valuable in some way and more useful, I think that's what you're saying, than simple knowledge. Okay, that's just, I can't answer it any better than that. This isn't a dictionary definition. This is because dictionaries give you every possible meaning, really, or the technical meaning, not necessarily how we use the words. So this is how I would use the words. For me, knowledge is the information we hold about something. Experience is the insight we've gained through direct observation or participation in something. It's something you get from being involved in it, not just knowing about it. So that's what I want to do. Now, if you're of a certain age, sort of roughly my age, one of the most common TV adverts, and other soft drinks that taste of cola are available, was something called the Pepsi Taste Challenge. That's where they compared Pepsi with another well-known brand that's called Coke, another well-known brand. They'd ask you to do a taste challenge, and I want us to do our own version of it here, okay? So we're going to do the Bethany taste test, okay? What I need is a volunteer who likes fruit. If you're allergic to... Helen, come up, your hands up. That's all I needed. She may have been asking for permission to go to the toilet. I don't know, but she's coming up to do this. Okay, so we're going to do a taste test. Do you have much fruit? Could I have that on, please? You don't have to take it out, but talk to it. Yes, do you like fruit?
Yeah.
Do you eat a lot of fruit?
Yeah, food in general, so yeah.
Food generally, you're happy with. Okay, brilliant. Yeah. So do you recognise any of these? Let me take these out. Do you recognise any of these fruits?
I'm going to look like a right div now.
No, you're not, honestly, because I deliberately went and chose weird things, so you're not. In fact, it's more helpful if you haven't had them.
Okay.
So do you recognise any of them?
Yeah, pomegranate.
You think that's a pomegranate? Okay, we'll take that one away.
I'm going to name them all.
Go on, name them all.
Those, I've had these before.
Yeah. I have to be very careful how I name those, because I get it wrong all the time and get very strange looks.
I can't remember what they're called.
No, well, I think there might be one of the names. And I have to practice. They're physalis.
Oh, that's not the name I knew. But...
Yeah, I think they're all called. I think they're called golden berries and other things. And yeah, have you had them before?
Yeah, I think I've had that before. Yeah.
Okay, take that away. Do you recognise these? In fact, we'll take that there. It's an interesting one anyway. We'll let you have that.
Yeah.
Do you recognise any of these? I'll hold them up so people at home can see them. This thing. Oh, well done, you.
Yeah.
Do you read much Shakespeare? Alan, no laughing.
Jungle Book.
Jungle Book, yes, that's where I do it from as well. Okay, and what about these? Do you recognise these? Yes, well done. Who said that? Yeah, late days at the front. Do you recognise that?
Sure, yeah.
Well done. So basically, what we've worked out is this is the fruit section here, okay? I think I can say for confidence, without being assaulted for the first time ever, Ruth is clearly a fruit bat. It's what? Okay, so the regularly eaten Pakistan. Okay, great. Okay, so which of those you've had that? Do you recognise what that is? I'm going to take that out. I had to mortgage my house to buy this, I have to say. You know when you pick something up in the shop and you buy it and you don't know how much it costs and it comes back to bite you? Yeah. Oh, what do you do in your spare time? Yeah. Okay, so that's a dragon fruit. Okay. So you've had that. You've had that. Have you had papaya?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Prickly pears? You ever had a prickly pear? No. Okay. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask you to give them marks out of 10 for how much you enjoy them.
Oh, okay.
All okay. So. Do you want to have a go now? Somebody write this down, actually, because we're going to compare this. Anybody got a pen nearby that they can write this down with? No. Damien, scorekeeper. Right, how much out of 10 do you like them?
I don't know.
Physalis. Well,
no idea.
Well, give us an answer.
What, before I taste?
Yeah.
Great. Let's give it a Solid 6.
A 6. Damien, we need 3 columns for this. Practicing. Physalis, she's given a 6. Okay? Prickly pear.
Let's go high.
Oh, okay.
Oh, let's go 7.
7. Prickly pear, 7. Dragon fruit.
Are they not?
No, don't be guiding her. Honestly, you find an area somebody likes, and all of a sudden they're directed the serve. Stop it.
I'm going to be optimistic. I'm not going to go 2, I'll go 4.
Okay, 4. Prickly pear. Mango.
Oh, yeah.
You've had that, yeah.
10.
In fact, you know what? I'm going to take that away. That's too easy. But it's all right. You can have it afterwards. You can have it afterwards. Papaya.
Yeah, let's go 9.
9 papaya. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you my tasting notes. I'm going to tell you about them. Okay. So what have we got? We've got papaya. Right. This, Helen, from the experts that I've gleaned via Google, I will tell you this is a soft, sweet, delicate fruit. Flesh is a little bit like a cantaloupe melon. It's a taste like a blend of mango, peach, maybe a hint of pumpkin in there, and banana. The flesh will melt in your mouth and has a buttery feel. You may notice some tiny black seeds that look like the size of peppercorns. The seeds are edible, but they're bitter. But they can be used and ground up like pepper on other food. The slightly bad news is, particularly if they're underripe, some people think they smell or taste of vomit or stinky feet. So what are you going to give it out of 10 now that you've heard that description?
Sticking with my 9.
You're sticking with your 9, okay. Let's open it up. Now, I'll be honest, I've never cut into a papaya before. Oh, yeah, it is soft. And there are seeds, a bit like a peppercorn.
Smells all right.
It smells all right. Oh. Yeah, so it's a fruit-based buffet we're having later. Right. Oh, I'll give you a nice big mouthful there. Go on, let you do that. Back to our maternity theme. Now, I want you to be genuine. The idea here is not for you to just say whatever you said before. I want you to taste it, and genuinely, out of 10, 10 is the best a fruit could be, and 0 is, well, vomit or stinky feet, I imagine.
No, it's nice.
What would you give that then out of 10?
I'll go 10.
10? Okay, 10. Excellent. Right, let me give you the dragon fruit. Right, when ripe...
Not later, thanks.
Yeah, okay. Great. I can see why you volunteered now. Right, when ripe, dragon fruit has a mild, sweet flavour, perhaps a cross, some people think, between a kiwi and a pear, and a soft texture similar to a ripe kiwi. The flesh can be purple, white, or red on the inside, spiked with small black seeds. It has a sweet and creamy yet crunchy flesh, but if it's underripe, the dragon fruit is basically flavourless.
Beautiful.
So from that description, what marks would you give it now? Damien, ready?
What did I give it before?
No, that's not the question.
Oh, okay.
The question is based on that description. How appealing out of 10?
I think I said 4, so I'll stick with 4.
4. Okay, you can have the yellow one or the pink one.
Was it not dragon fruit?
Yeah, you can do. I'm just checking for later. So, of the dragon fruit. So we've got a pink-fleshed one. Okay. The things you learn here, it's amazing, isn't it? Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah. Is this the one you said was not nice?
No, don't be listening to her. Go on. No, you do. I'm not doing the aeroplane, no matter how much you ask. What would you give that out of 10?
Well, that's nice. Yeah.
Well, ignore them. I've been trying to tell you that for 10 minutes. What would you give it out of 10?
I mean, it's not as flavourful as that, but yeah, a solid 8.
An 8 now.
Maybe a 9.
8/9. It's growing on her. I might try some of that myself later. Okay, prickly pear, which is what I really wanted to get to. Do you want the... Now, apparently, the colour does not indicate ripeness or not. It's just they come in varieties. So, which one of them are you going to have?
Let's go pink, because we've just had pink.
Okay,
Let's go that. Let's
no, we're going to go to green. So let me tell you about that and get you marked for this description. So it's got a spiky exterior. And actually, this has had the spikes cut off, because if you do it without the spikes, you have to wear gloves because they become quite dangerous. It's actually the fruit of a cactus. It comes in a variety of colours, including lime green, yellow, orange, and red. I don't know whether that's orange or red, but it's got a soft, juicy interior that's bursting with sweet flavour and little edible seeds. Its flavour is often compared to a melon or a kiwi or perhaps a slightly underripe strawberry, with a tart brightness, sometimes with a hint of bubblegum. It's fibrous like a pineapple with seeds like a raspberry.
Ooh,
So what are you giving that out of 10 on that description?
sounds amazing, doesn't it?
It does sound like all your best fruits in one. So,
Plus bubblegum.
yeah, plus bubblegum, so you can chew it and press later. So what are we going to give that out of 10?
I'm going 8.
8 for that. Record that at Damien. Oh, yeah, it is. That has got a bit more resist. Oh, looks a bit funny inside, though. That's not as appealing, is it? And do you know what the good thing about eating a fruit you've never had before is? You don't know whether it's off. Oh, yeah, it is like a pineapple. It's got that sort of, yeah, fibrous, like same sort of texture as celery, sort of. Oh, she's not sure about this one though.
It smells like grass.
Like grass now. Marks out of 10 for that then.
Oh, it's weird.
Is it? Well, I'll have a bit of that in a minute. Go on.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Let's go 7.
7. Okay, have you got that, Damien? That's lovely. Helen, thank you very much for your help. I'm going to leave the physalis, because I'm going to pass them round. Anybody who's not had a physalis before, one person per table can try one, okay? Pass them on to the next table. See who's bravest. What are you doing? You know the expression, you've lost the room? So what I want to... Damien, could you just read out the scores for each fruit, though? So how the fruit changed, the scores changed from just at the beginning with the description and then with the taste. Can you just read them out?
The prickly pear,
Yeah,
Free's description
Yeah.
was 7 out of 10.
yeah,
Post's description it was 8 out of 10.
yeah.
And then Post's taste was 7 out of 10.
Okay, so it went 7, 8, 7. Yes, next one.
Dragon fruit,
Yeah,
Free's description it was 4 out of 10.
yeah,
Post's description it was 4 out of 10.
yeah.
And then Post's taste it was 8 or 9 out of 10.
Okay, so it went 4, 4, and then when she tasted it, it went to 8 or 9, yeah,
And the papaya, Free's description was 9 out of 10.
yeah,
Post's description again 9 out of 10.
yeah.
And for Post's taste it was 10 out of 10.
Okay, so it went 9, 9, but when she tasted it, it was better than she'd even thought. So 10 out of 10. Is that it? Is that the ones we did? Perfect, okay. Now, what I want to say there is to remind you of our verse, and particularly the end of it. So crave that pure spiritual milk we thought about before, so that you may grow up in your salvation, now that you have tasted that the Lord is good. Now, what Peter's saying there is, this is about tasting. Taste isn't something that you know from somebody else. As we saw in Helen's reaction to this, from her descriptions before, so let's use the dragon fruit as the most obvious example. The description, and even the advice she got from other people said, off 4 from the negative fruit lovers down here. And yet when she tasted it, she thought it was an 8 or a 9. Now what Peter's saying is, when you have tasted what God is like, when you've tasted what relationship with God is like, when you've experienced it, not known about it, not had other people's description of it, when you have tasted it, experienced it for yourself, you will know that it is good. You will know that it is 10 out of 10. And that will help you to crave it more, because the more you taste it, the more you get into it. And I think this is one of the points Mandy was making earlier when she summarized this service in 20 seconds better than I've done, is the more you do it, the more you receive from it, and the more it encourages you to keep going. And that idea of tasting that the Lord is good is throughout Scripture. So this is from Psalm 34. And again, you'll see here, And this is a phrase that's often quoted, taste and see that the Lord is good. But what I want you to do is to recognize that the build-up to why you should taste and see that the Lord is good, it's about his saving kindness towards us. So the psalmist is saying, I've quoted the whole section 4 to 8, I sought the Lord and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant, their faces are never covered with shame. This poor man called and the Lord heard him. And so many of us can say that. He saved him out of all of his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and he delivers them. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the one who takes refuge in him. So what the psalmist is saying is that tasting what the Lord is like, tasting what God is like, is accepting his offer of salvation. It's putting our trust in him and experiencing what comes through that life. So I'm going to ask you to do your final table time now. We're nearly finished. We'll finish at about 10 past. I want you to talk amongst your table. Does it matter whether Christians grow? And by that I mean in their Christian faith. I don't mean physically. Does it matter or not whether Christians grow? And if so, why? And the reason I ask that is because for lots of people, they have this idea that becoming a Christian is like getting a ticket for heaven. As in, you make a decision, and then you can just switch off and coast, and you've got your ticket, you know you're going, then you can sort of do what you like and those sorts of things. So what I want to ask you is, does it matter whether Christians grow in their faith or not? Discuss that. You've got 3 or 4 minutes. One more minute. And we'll regather into the room, thank you. Regather. And so for the first question, I'm just going to ask for a show of hands. I'm going to ask for who thinks it does matter first of all, and then I'm going to ask for who thinks it doesn't afterwards. Mandy, I love your enthusiasm. Who thinks it does matter whether a Christian grows in your faith? Just a little like hand up if you can. Okay, so I'd say that's over half. Who thinks it doesn't matter whether Christians grow in their faith or not? Okay. There's a lot of abstentions then. Okay. So I think from those who wanted to express a view, they all said it was important. So now let's have a chat about why. So who's got a short sort of answer for why it's important that Christians grow in their faith? Who wants to give an answer? Yes. Yes, you've taken the Hebrews metaphor, haven't you? Yes, you do. Although just for that's absolutely right. So the writer of the book of Hebrews says that don't just stay on the basics, if you like, of spiritual nutrition. You need to grow up, and that's the point that he's making there. You need to grow up and get into deeper things, a greater understanding. Don't confuse that metaphor with this one. Although they've both used milk, it's a different point that's being made. Peter's saying here, you need milk all the time. It's the stuff of life. But yes, so that Hebrews one is an illustration of how the Bible is telling us we do need to grow. Who's else got a quick answer? Yes, Nicola.
If you don't grow, you stagnate.
Yeah, okay, so if you don't grow, you're stagnating. I mean, let's go back to it's a maternity and fruit service, so let's go back to maternity. For a long time in the first months of my life, I wore nappies, but if I turned up here today wearing a nappy, you'd probably have some questions for me, wouldn't you? I would think. Yeah, I'll make a note of that and I won't do it again, I'm sorry. But, so the things that we did when we were young, we should grow and develop. And so it's the same as being a Christian. When you're a young Christian, you should grow and develop. So who else has got an answer for why we should grow? Amos at the back?
The stagnation eventually will lead to death.
Okay, so stagnation will often lead to death afterwards. Yeah, if you don't use something a bit like a muscle, it withers and deteriorates, and in the end, it can just go altogether. Anyone else got any? Yes, Bucky. No, come back. I like what you've done there. You've linked it into my fruit metaphor. You can have a heroes for that. That's very good. Oh. Oh. Well done. Ready? And I'll. Oh, sorry. Nicola. Oh, sorry. Okay. I'll have to give what Amos later. Don't break the equipment. Okay. So anyone else got an answer they want to? Yes, Ruth. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So Ruth's making the point that communication is an invaluable part of growth, because without communication, the relationship will die. Thanks, Ruth. Well, I think there's lots and lots of reasons we could give for that. But I want to focus on a reason that Peter gives in the passage following. And this is what he says following on from our verses. He says, as you come to him, the living stone, that's one of the names given to Jesus, rejected by humans but chosen by God and precious to him, you also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house, some translations say a temple, to be a holy priesthood. That means people who are dedicated to serving God and mediating between God and humanity, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. And then there's a passage that talks about Jesus being the living stone, and we don't need to look at that for the purposes of this answer. And it goes on to this, but you are a chosen people. Go back to that beginning point. We're chosen for a purpose and for a role. A royal priesthood again, going back to what that role is. Encouraging worship towards God and serving God amongst humanity. A holy nation, holy, mentioned lots of times before, it doesn't mean wearing white clothes and sandals and never saying anything. What it means is being set apart from normal things and being dedicated for God. That's what holy means, because God is holy. God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness. So we need to grow so that we can properly declare the praises of the one who's called us. Who's called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are a people of God. So that's the idea that Christians become a community, a group, and we've got to grow to help serve and look after one another and to encourage one another and to tend to one another. We talked about that at the beginning, didn't we, about the people in need who we need to pray for. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. And here he goes back to his point earlier. Dear friends, I urge you as foreigners and exiles, to abstain from sinful desires, because the people who he's talking to at the very beginning of 1 Peter 1, they were exiles. It said to those who were exiled and scattered, and they were living in a world and in a place where God's rules, God's principles were ignored, and the rules of life were very different. He's saying, don't get sucked into that. He's saying to us today, in the world around us with its very different values and principles, don't get sucked into that. Abstain from sinful desires which wage war against your soul. They're trying to pull us away and to diminish our desire, our longing for God's way. Living such good lives among the pagans, that's where they were, though they accuse you of doing wrong, so you might get ridiculed, you might get mocked, you might get sort of criticized for living according to God's principles, in the end, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits us. So, in summary, before we have a summary, so what Peter's saying there is, you've got a job to do. If you've been called, you've been chosen and been called, and you've answered that, you've been called to a job, a purpose. A while ago, I did a service, a bit like this, I think it was, and it was called Vocational Vacation. The idea being to get away from this idea that we think of Christianity as getting a heavenly vacation when we die, a lovely place to go and rest, when actually what the Bible tells us is it's a way of life, and it starts now, living God's way, not the world's way. It's that, and what Peter here is saying, we've got a job to do. You've got to be that royal priesthood. You've got to be God's ambassadors in the world, living his way, declaring the praises of him, not being shy about that, and representing him in the world. That's what we've been called to do. So I want us to have just a few minutes reflecting. So we're going to play a song now. We're going to play a song where you don't know it. It's a new one. It's called Your Word. It picks up lots of the themes from 1 Peter. And just think about the extent that you crave, the job that you've got to do, and where you are in that relationship with Christ. So we're going to play that now.
Foundation, you spoke the
Okay, so let's summarise what we've learned from that passage this morning. The first is we are invited to personally taste and experience that the Lord is good. If you're not a Christian this morning, you may very well be thinking, that all just sounds like rubbish. A bit like Helen thought that dragon fruit was 4 out of 10 looking at it from the outside. Peter is encouraging us to personally taste and experience that it is good. That's why so many of us who are here would give that testimony, would give that description of our own experience. Peter's encouraging us to crave God's instruction, to crave God's word, like newborn babies crave pure milk, and to reject what the world offers as nourishment, the adulterated, the impure milk that's given. And why? It's so that each of us may grow up in our salvation, may grow together to be that group of people, that community working for God, serving the purpose that he has for us. Because that role is an important role for us to perform in God's kingdom now and into eternity. We're going to close in prayer now, but before I do, if anybody wants to come up and taste the different fruits afterwards, then you're very welcome to come and do that. There's an extra special offer this week that if you'd like some cooking apples, our fruit experts at the back, or one half of them, has got access to an unfeasibly large quantity of cooking apples because the neighbour's got loads of cooking apples and the fence is really low. So, no, there might be a different reason to do with family. But if you would like some cooking apples, please come and see Ruth. Ruth, put your hand up. Please come and see Ruth. And she's leaning very quickly, so come and see her straight away. So do that. I mentioned the what's on that's been sent out, and it's at the back. Do grab it. We talked about growing as a Christian, about craving God's words. They are the things that we as a church do to help each other to grow. Take it, prioritize coming and doing them. That will help you to grow. Let's close in prayer and give thanks for the food we're about to share together. Father God, thank you that so many of us can say we have tasted you, the Lord Jesus, and the life that you offer, and we can declare with our hearts and our lips that it is good. Father, we're so sorry that so often we've stuffed ourselves with other types of nourishment, that we've lost the taste for your spiritual nourishment. Father, help us to prioritize that and to get back to all those positive benefits of longing for and feeding on your word for our lives. Father, help us to grow in our salvation as individuals, as a group of believers here, as a church family, and for the church across the globe, for your church. Help us in that. Thank you, Father, for the food that's been lovingly prepared for us. Help us to have a great time laughing and sharing and sometimes crying together in the back as a church family that you've brought together. Thank you for this time and for those who prepared it. We say this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much. We're done. Grab Ruth if you can. Come and get a spoon if you want to try the weird fruit. And otherwise, make your way out to the back where there'll be less weird forms of fruit and other things to eat in the back.